Yeah.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
Except for on one side.
Okay, we'll call this November meeting of the Parks and Conservation Board to order. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Aaron, you want to call the roll?
Alderman Engelhardt,
Here.
Tracy Blair,
Here.
Terry Boyer,
Here.
Barbara Erdman,
Here.
Bill Miller,
Here.
Barbara Schroeder,
Here.
Toby Whipple.
Here.
The agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on Thursday, October 31st.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the May 7th meeting?
Motion to approve.
There's a correction, isn't there?
Yep, we need a second first.
Okay. Second it.
Okay. What's the correction, Barbara?
I think it said you called the meeting to order. And I think Paul called the meeting to order, did he not? Or did I miss something? Paul, were you gone, Toby?
You were gone.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this.
Yeah, and
I think for the May meeting, I was gone. So I think that is incorrect. Shows me as being present, but I don't think I was.
I know,
Maybe
and later on
spirit.
it says that, Paul did approval of the minutes.
I wasn't the only one.
So, I don't know, is that, maybe I'm,
No, he wasn't here.
No, I
Thank you.
think you're right.
I wasn't
Yeah.
here.
I'm just checking my
Got thrown in the
calendar.
hot seat
Maybe I
at the
missed
last
something.
minute.
That is correct. That was when I had my little emergency stint in Madison. I was not here. So I should be marked as not being present. And Paul ran the meeting, chaired the meeting. That's correct. Okay? Any other corrections?
Let's see.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved as corrected. There's no old business that I'm aware of. Scott, you aware of any old business? New business, update on park vandalism. Scott, you want to go through your memo?
Sure. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of update on park vandalism for 2019, the park improvements for 2019, and the park improvements for 2020. If I miss anything, hopefully Tammy here will catch me. It's a long list. But we'll kind of break it up in a couple sections. The first one is our update on park vandalism for 2019. As we have mentioned several times, it was a very bad year for us for vandalism. The one good note is the skate park is back open. It opened up last week. There was fire damage from fireworks as part of some type of vandalism. So that one has been we got that one back up and running. We also had some of our DPW staff has set up temporary cameras in the parks to try and catch individuals. We're hoping to catch some of the ones at the parks that have been hit the most. Currently, we have cameras up and running at Idle Isle and Park Arthur, which is really good. One correction for Moreland Park, I checked with Barb, and we should have those Moreland Park cameras up and running in November of 2019, which is really good too. The next three items, what I wanted to share about is capital through IT approved. So in capital for 2020, we plan to get cameras in Horn, Lyons, and Kurth. For capital for 2021, Jensen, Danoon, Veterans. And 2022, it's planned to do Boxhorn, Boat Launch, and Sand Hill Park as well to get cameras. So we have found by putting cameras in the parks, it is helped in some of the areas and allowed us to catch some people who've done vandalism at Park Arthur, or no, Idle Isle. Idle Isle. So Any comments, questions about the vandalism? Just open it up. Okay, moving on to the update of the parks for 2019 improvements. I apologize if some of the stuff I said has been done or hasn't been done. The weather has not been very cooperative for us this year. So, first thing, in the fall of 2019, we had a little reorganization at the DPW. So, when took over DPW, took over parks, we always had a superintendent and one assistant superintendent. And now working with them and our organization, we decided that it was better, so we now have two DPW assistant superintendents. One of them will be focused on parks, and then one of them focused on the other DPW activities. What that allows us to do is we now have a go-to person internally when we get a complaint about parks, that we can kind of have him run the crews to make sure they're getting done what needs to get done. It's one of the things that we have found, at least I have found, that I've been here 2.5 years, and the new superintendent, that we needed to do a little bit better job with the parks. And this is one of the ways that we're hoping we'll get some of the stuff done in a better, more efficient way. So that was one of the changes that we had in there. Some of the new things, there's new picnic tables and garbage cans in parks. You'll see some of these things. New signage for lake access points at Little Muskego Lake have been installed around the lake. They're both, one is along the roadside and one along the lakeside. A lot of you probably have seen those up. New park signs will be going up in November. We have them all in DPW. They're getting the nice posts put on them, and the plan is, if the weather cooperates, to kind of get them in November. Kurth baseball field got a fence in the outfield. Kurth playground set finally got raised. It was in a hole out there, so it finally did get raised. New wood chips will be going in, a concrete border, and ADA access as well for that playground set. Park Arthur got a new playground. The new wood chips, I believe, are not in. The concrete border in, and the ADA access is in as well. Sand Hill Park is getting a light pole and electric service to the pavilion. That has not been done. We know we have got quotes, so the plan is to kind of wrap that up in November and December. Park Arthur got a new pavilion between fields 1, 2, and 3. It's got a red top out there, so that's kind of nice. Idle Isle got a new pavilion. Also, when you guys voted, I think it was like almost a year ago, on 3 new picnic rental areas. 3 new picnic rental areas have been created, 1 for the pavilion, and 2 located next to the old pavilion on either side of it out there. Those concrete pads have been already paved out there. Split rail fence has been installed at Idle Isle. The path around Idle Isle it's going to be finished. It's been stoned. We had extra money in the road program. We had always have alternatives. One of the alternatives was to finish that loop. So hopefully, if the weather cooperates in the next 2 weeks, we will pave the asphalt out there, and that loop will be finished. Basketball courts have been painted at Lee Hupka Park, Schmidt Park, and hoops and lines at Old Town Hall and Moreland Park. And then all the park buildings have been rekeyed. And I believe that's all the improvements for 2019 that have been done.
Any questions? 2020.
What's the, just a little more on the signage that was planned, what signs are those? What are they?
Pretty much all the parks will get a brand new sign. It'll be one of those that are like with the milk recycled ones that'll last forever. That's the kind of game plan like you see at Danoon, and I believe Park Arthur has an existing one like that in Idle Isle, very similar. But it's just a new sign. Some of them are all wood and they're falling over and they look like we need something that lasts, that we have very low maintenance on. So
What's the content on the signs?
Just the park name.
just park name.
Just the name of the park, okay.
Yep, we can't put ordinances because they change, and it's just the park name. So, and it does have a logo, I believe, of the city of Muskego.
Okay.
So,
Does the signage include also the walkways and roadways that we have between the city? Just because I'm asking, I was walking down Woods Road and Bay Lane Road, and there's that sign, it's like looking like it's gonna fall over at any point in time. Are those your signages too, or not? Because it says We Energies over the whole thing, so.
They're done.
Yeah, we have, but they're metal.
They're metal.
They're
signs.
metal signs. It's the wood ones I know that are gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's like,
I know.
okay.
So we have metal ones that we created, kind of like similar to, have you seen the dog ones that are up? Like, very similar to that. We do have created those, and those would be also going up as well. But they're not gonna be your traditional wood signs out there, because again, maintenance, painting, whatever. It covers everything like, that you need for, I believe, like no horseback riding on them and all the standard stuff. So they're just in metal, so.
Okay.
2020, so I kind of got the kind of big ones that were approved from the Capitol. Park Arthur, so the baseball fields. Field 4 is the big field. Basically 1, 2, and 3, and 4 all drain very poorly. You don't have to ask us, you can ask any baseball team or any person who's tried to play out there. So that is going to be one of our major fixes for 2020. The plan is, we worked with the baseball teams, is to have them play, and then in the second week of July, to have them stop, and then we would do all the work from the second week of July, all the way through the fall, and then hopefully have everything come back. This is a very large project. It goes to the price tag, I believe we have just over $300,000 to do the repairs to this field. So this is a very big project to take on. The next one is bike racks. We're looking at doing bike racks at Idle Isle, Park Arthur, Moreland, and Kurth. Idle Isle would get a new playground set. It's the oldest one that we have. And then Old Town Hall, the roof and exterior needs improvements, and that's a very big project as well. Besides these 4 major capitals, we always do annual activities, including replace playground equipment as needed. It's operational. Something always breaks. We have money in the budget for that. Wood chips, and safety improvements to fields. And I mean fields, it means baseball, rugby, soccer, football, whatever fields it's in general that we do. But the major item this year will be repairing Field 4 at Park Arthur. So.
Was it not installed properly to start with, or shouldn't I ask that question?
From my understanding, and talking with the folks here, the drainage for the fine grading was not done properly. And what has left it to is, instead of draining properly, it drains through the fields. And even though it's rained, the next week or maybe next 4 days, the field is just soaking wet, and that's not right. If you have a field that drains properly, if you have a heavy rain, within a couple days, you should be able to play. But we have canceled and moved a lot of games to that. Tammy, you have anything to add, or?
No.
Tammy, isn't that's a senior league
Yes.
baseball thing? Don't they play in July? Because they play after high school.
The high school, so Land O'Lakes League is gone, so it's just the MAA program up through like 17, 18-year-olds.
Right, because we
Um,
always played with Brookfield.
Right, and the Warriors and Storm all are all in agreement how bad this field is and needs to be done, so they're going to adjust schedules
Okay.
to make sure that they're done, so we can start it. I think starting the 3rd week of July is what the goal is.
Correct. And that should give us enough time to get all the work done, and then have the field start growing back again and all the grass growing back. So then the plan is, when spring ball starts in 2021, the field's all ready to go. But they're gonna have to play on this field if they do play on the field, but we do cancel a large number of games off this field, so.
Do you know what was wrong with the left light in the left outfield for the last probably 3 games last summer?
Yeah.
It was not working?
Yep, no, there was a timer issue that was, it was short circuiting and tricking, one was bad and triggering a cycle of shutting them off and then turning them on at the wrong time. And that breaker has been replaced.
Good.
So, but you didn't know it was a problem
That was a
until.
handicap for the games that we played out there.
Yeah, and you didn't know we weren't getting it, knowing what was wrong until the nighttime came and the lights got switched on and it would default it over. And it was basically like tripping a timer and saying it had been on to the point where it's supposed to shut off.
Well, it's good that wasn't anything major.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we weren't getting a warning either, I don't
No,
think.
it would just, the leagues would call and say, hey, lights went off on us in the middle of the game.
Made the
or
game
whatever.
interesting.
At least it didn't all go up.
Yeah, no, it was just the left fielder that suffered. It was a good place to hit a fly ball, though.
Any questions about 2020, 2019?
I guess the only question that I had, or was thinking about, was your camera situation that you're talking about. Because you can go on Amazon and get cameras for $30. So you have to wait 3 years in order for it to get accomplished. I mean, is the cost that high for cameras to be installed, or I'm just
I can
curious.
answer it.
Yeah.
The cameras have to be able to send footage back to us so that we can monitor them, we can track them, we can record it. Should there be significant vandalism, that it can be caught and pulled up in court. So all of the cameras will be on the same system, and they are costly, but not, I think the first round we did were like $250 per camera. Now they're dropping down in price, but to get all of the electrical to the locations, the Wi-Fi we need for signals to come back, is why the cost is. And the portable ones that the guys have had right now go to Ryan's phone.
Right.
So he's constantly dinged if a raccoon goes through the park.
Yep.
Constant. Whereas our software, we can go back then in the morning, watch the whole, what happened the night before, and pinpoint everything. There's 11 cameras up right now, and I think 3 at Moreland will be what's going up.
I don't know for sure.
I think it's 3.
And when I say like the different places, we've gone out there and said, do we need 3? Do we need 4? Do we need 5? We've know how many that they are at the places.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the detail in this memo. But it also goes back to the police, our cameras, DPW. So we all have a link to it. And like Tammy said, the first initial thing was to kind of get the system or network going up. I don't want to misspeak an IT term here, Barb, she would know. But as we are going through this progress now, the cameras are getting cheaper because now we're just adding cameras and electric to it, so.
So pretty much each one of these will be like 7 or 8 cameras, not just one camera at Horn, one at Lyons, one at Kurth. It'll be multiple, and then Kurth is
My concern
tricky.
is the length of time it's gonna take,
Yeah.
because you have it 3 years out. Is that too long? I don't know. It was-
I think, from starting this process and how fast we are going with setting them up, I think with today's age, it's moving actually pretty quick. And we spread the cost off to the point where I don't think it just all hammers everything at once. Fine tuning with everything when you do capital budgets, we have to look at 5 years out. So I think we did a pretty good job of spreading the cost at the same time, hitting the areas that we were concerned at most. And in between, if we have to set up a couple temporary ones, we can do that as well, so.
Okay, any other questions? Let's move on to the 2020 committee meeting schedule proposal.
So what's happening is, and this is the kind of Tammy and I were talking, to hold us more responsible to meet with you guys, is what these kind of are hit or miss whether or not we have on it. So what we are trying to do is we are recommending that every April, August, November, no matter what, we meet. That allows you guys a plan for sure that you have a meeting here. It allows us a plan also around our budget time to kind of go over a lot of items with you. So we know, hey, by the way, capital's coming up. Here's some ideas. Here's where it's going to capital. Here's after capital. So at the same time, too, it gives you hopefully some meaning to this kind of committee, and also it makes us both Tammy, myself, and even Tom to come and meet with you 3 times a year and give you reports. And by setting this kind of up like this way is we're guaranteeing meetings, and it helps all of us schedule our busy lives. And at the same time too, I think it would do a better job of us just communicating back and forth. Now, we are going to have other meetings in between. If a developer comes in and he wants to do a project and we need to have a meeting, we'll just have to schedule that ahead of time. But at least this gives us 3 good, solid meetings throughout the year where you're here, we're here, and you get a nice update from us. And the April, August, November is one that we thought just was a pretty good time working around how the city budget works, and then giving you updates at those specific times. We can change those 3, but I just thought those would be kind of a good time that we worked with. So, thoughts, open discussion, I
think those are good. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a
this
motion.
proposal?
I like this idea. I don't like the randomness of just popping something out 2 weeks prior to a meeting, so I really like something that you can schedule around. Tell my wife we can't go on vacation that week.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
I have a question. Just make sure that it doesn't fall on a voting day. Okay?
Yeah.
Because April may have a conflict or November.
Yeah, November.
in November too.
For sure. Yeah.
But we can always adjust, it's just in that month, it doesn't say what specific Tuesday, so if we maybe have to do the second Tuesday, we'll hopefully, get that out to you guys all the time, so.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the proposal signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's approved.
The last one, request to host beer garden again at Veterans Park in 2020. So we're requesting again to host the beer garden. Last year we hosted it with Component Brewing Company. We want to then, we have the RFP ready. Once we get the recommendation from the committee, we will put the RFP out. We want to put it out in November, December. It's best for us to kind of get some of these RFPs out so that different breweries can set the time and set their schedule for the whole year. As we kind of evolve through this process, we're kind of tailoring this a little bit better to help out. Last year we had 1 rain cancellation. There should have been 2 rain cancellations. So what we're trying to do is give some flexibility to whoever is going to propose this. So, and give them some possible makeup days. So we're letting them to say a minimum of 6 events, but with a maximum of 10 events during the 2019 area. Secondly, there is a new state statute out there, and just to make everyone aware of. So the vendor fees, we used to do like renting out the park and then a percentage of sales. According to state statute, we no longer can do that. So we have to charge a daily flat rate, and that is it. Our attorney got involved. We have called the state statute. We have called all other different communities who do this, and we're running into the same issue. So what we have done is we have kind of looked at what 2018, 2019, and we saw what the average kind of money that we obtained that day, and we just did a flat rate. Now, if it gets canceled, we don't charge that rate. There's just no fee charged to it. But we had to go over to a flat rate through that. You have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. So. Any other questions about the beer garden? Anyone attend the beer garden this past year?
It was pretty nice. A lot of people. A lot of families having fun. It was very nice. So.
Any discussion? You don't need a motion on this, do you?
Yep.
You do?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It's approved.
Are you the one that is in charge of the signs for it? They're really hard to read.
We used, the current company that we had this last year designed the signs
Okay.
to go along with what we'd published in our guide going forward. Whoever the new vendor is, then
Are we able
we
to-
would work with them.
I just heard people
Right.
comment that they couldn't read. I mean, I understood what they did because it was like German.
Right.
Yeah, but it was harder to read.
Right.
Yeah.
And it'll be up to them how many they want to print and put up.
True.
So.
True. Okay.
Okay, status of projects, director's report. Reports, Tammy, you want to talk about recreation?
Sure. We just sent the book to the printer today, so it should be in mailboxes like the week of the 18th. We've had the same type of consistent registration with sports programs. We've seen a little bump in adult fitness classes doing a little bit better. Well, a much wider offering so that there's a lot of different things for people to try. Preschool programs are still going well. So we kind of feel like the market anywhere for 2 to 7-year-olds, anything we're putting in the guide, we're still getting a lot of enrollment in. So there's a lot of interest in that age group. So, and we've kind of branched out with some of the STEM and art programs that are going on, and those have been very successful. We're one of the only rec departments in the area that does the book in-house fully. We lay it all out and everything, so it allows us the opportunity to add and move things. Some communities are limited to the number of pages, and so they don't add new things. So we're watching what everybody else is doing, what the trends are, and we just keep trying to put stuff in. So should be in mailboxes. Registration starts November 20th. We will be slammed the first day for basketball, as always. So hopefully when we meet in April, then we'll have a summary of what all our enrollment numbers were for 2019. For the boat launch and parking fees, we had an increase in revenue this last year compared to what we had last year. Partly was the lake drawdown, and it coming back took a while for people to come back and use the lakes. This year we were up, and even though we had a horrible spring, we still have seen pretty solid use. Boxhorn has been really busy the last 2 weeks with hunting, so our guys are still out there collecting money. So this isn't the final numbers for the year, but it's just where we're at. And then summer baseball, softball, I know we always update on what those numbers look like. This last year there was only 182 games, but pretty much every league ran doubleheaders. So it only reflects the actual number of game preps that happened, not the number of games that were held. And then we had 245 practices, but that's only tracking our fields. It doesn't include Bay Lane or the Mill Valley or school district fields. So numbers, in my opinion, pretty much have remained consistently the same for the use of our fields for baseball. And then the last thing that's really kind of been a bigger change for us is several years ago, the district and the city policies for use were dissolved. And so we went into a new policy with the district that they had created for anytime we use their facilities, we paid $10 per date to use a facility. And we kind of built those costs into our program fees, and then the city subsidized a little bit of it. This year in June, they changed their policy again and changed that to a $10 per hour use. And so anybody using a school district facility pays $10 an hour. So that impacted all of the youth sports, scout troops, anybody that falls in that priority class for using their facilities. For us, it's a substantial hit. Because most of our classes, we back-to-back-to-back classes, so we're not in the school for an hour, we're in for 3 hours sometimes. And so for 2018, we had paid the district right around $2,600 for use. We're already over that this year with the policy changing in the summer when we didn't have a whole lot of stuff. Just looking at our current enrollment trends, we're looking at somewhere around $11,000 potentially for using school district facilities. So that makes it tricky for us because now we're looking at, can we have 2 classes going on at a time in the gym? Can we change our gymnastic numbers? What can we do in the one facility we have? moving things around to city facilities. So that's something that we're working on in-house. It didn't only affect us, it affects any of the user groups that use school district facilities. And then the school district had asked to use Danoon Fields for their PE classes. We talked to them about following our policy as we follow their policy, and they just decided that that was not something they wanted to do at this time due to the cost. And so I think we're kind of done with that conversation because it's cold and yucky, and no gym classes are going outside onto the fields at Danoon at this time. So it is something that we will have to figure out. We do not have a gym. The only building the rec department has is Old Town Hall at this time. So we use City Hall building, library buildings as best as we can, but we can't have basketball practice in those facilities. So we will continue to use school facilities and follow their policies.
Do you know how other communities coordinate that situation?
It's hard to compare other communities because some of them are community education and recreation communities. So their rec is ran through the school district. They have full use of the facilities. Okay. It is something that happens in other communities where they charge, but then some of those communities don't have parks next to schools or by schools. So how they work out a usage is a little bit different in every community. We don't mind paying for our use. It's just we use a lot of it and trying to figure out how, if we were to take the cost of what a gymnastics class costs for staffing and equipment and now absorb an extra $150 between 6 kids, the price of those classes would double. And then it's not cost effective and nobody would take it and the class would cancel. So we're constantly trying to figure out how to work that out.
Any other questions for Tammy? Okay, thanks, Tammy. Mm-hmm. Conservation Coordinators Report. Tom, you want to talk about your report? And you have to explain the blue poles to me.
Is this on? Okay.
Yeah.
Explain what?
The picture, the blue poles.
Oh, the tree tubes? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, you're showing the video already?
I'm paused it until you're ready.
Oh, okay. I don't have a sheet in front of me. I was gonna go through the bullet points on my memo. Can I do that? Thank you. I don't know, I'm gonna read through everything here, but a lot of the work I did this year was with the conservation areas. We have about 500 acres of passive use city-owned land, and I actively manage maybe half of that. Battisher Preserve, Engle Conservation Area get the lion's share of the work. The new one, Marshland Camps on Durham, we just planted prairie there. We did wetland restoration there. So there's been a lot of follow-up work with some of the invasive plant species. So a lot of what I do is managing plant communities in the conservation areas. So that's prescribed burning and invasive plant control. Project that we started this year, a new one next to Bloom Park and Tudor Oaks, is we killed off 3 acres of land underneath the power lines, and we're going to plant that to prairie plants through American Transmission Company's pollinator program. And so that seed is, a lot of it's been hand collected by the high school science club. We have other seed left over, and then we'll purchase additional seed. We got $3,600 from ATC for that project. A lot of different citizen volunteers who've worked, it's just ongoing. 2 different Eagle Scouts this year. Every year it seems I have at least 1 or 2. There's going to be a boardwalk that's going in at Battisher Preserve. that's going to lead to the Ridges site. It's a very wet area, really nice wetland that it has to traverse through. So it'll be nice to have, be able to get to that without getting your feet wet. Various outreach events through the year, Arbor Day, International Migratory Bird Day. Fox River trip was really successful this year. And then, of course, Big Muskego's kayak trip. Guess we can go to the next, is there a next page? There we go. I provided some assistance for the outdoor classroom that the Muskego High School is doing next to their athletic fields. It's directly adjacent to Big Muskego, to Angle Conservation Area, and kind of augments the footprint of Angle Conservation Area into a larger conservancy. Began pruning street trees. So if you have any questions about any of what's been done this year, if you've been out to some of the conservation areas, I'd be happy to answer them. Anything? So for 2020, it's planned to plant trees primarily at Danoon Park. I applied for a grant from the DNR Urban Forestry Program. Hopefully we'll get that. It'll also include some staff training. We have some new staff that are working on trees this year at Public Works, and it'll be helpful for them to get safety training and some of the basics of arboriculture. And then to continue to prune the young trees that are on Janesville and Moreland roads. So the question came up, what are the blue tubes for in this photograph? This was a project that was Eagle Scout project to plant oak trees in an area that was cleared out from, a lot of the buckthorn was cleared here, and we lost a lot of trees because of emerald ash borer. And so there's a lot of sunlight hitting this forest floor now, and we're trying to reestablish oak trees, which need sunlight to propagate. If an acorn falls in a really densely shaded woods, nothing happens to it. So this is an opportunity for these to grow, and the tubes protect them because they'll get munched down by deer otherwise.
Tom, did you treat those cut stumps after they went through with the forestry mower?
That's a good question. Typically, if we cut them with a brush cutter or a chainsaw, we will immediately treat those cut stumps with an herbicide that'll kill that woody plant. When the forestry mower goes through, it just rips everything up down to ground level, and generally you have to wait for them to resprout during the summer. So this last growing season, we went back and sprayed the foliage, and a lot of them died at that time, but we'll go back again for the ones that didn't, for the call it sucker growth, when it shoots back with many stems. We'll go back now and spray the multiple stems that are up now that the leaves have fallen off. So.
Have you found giant hogsweed anywhere?
That's one I haven't seen, but we have got a pretty long list of parsnip, teasel, giant reed grass, we have Japanese knotweed in Moreland Park we've been dealing with, trying to kill it. It's hard to kill that plant.
Yeah. I only ask because that plant is so, it's such a bad, the oils that come out of it cause it's a sun burn.
Photo similar to wild parsnips, does the same thing.
Worse though. So it'll cause like third-degree burns on people, and so in any of the areas where we have people that are using those walking past or whatnot, we really need to watch for that because it's coming. It's here in the Wisconsin already. So.
Right. Danoon Park has wild parsnip, and it's next to the trail. So we did a lot of work to get rid of the stuff that was in harm's way of people. Every year we're after it. So I have a short video, just for entertainment value here, of some of the work that was done. Jake from our IT department ran the drone, and so it'll start off with a spring burn. You can roll it. This is at Kelsey Conservation Area. It's just north. It's on Kelsey Drive, just north of Danoon Park. We own this retention pond, and what's going on here is a backburn. You see that the flame is proceeding upwind and it's in a very controlled manner. And there was a plowed field on the backside of it so it was a great burn break, and then it's proceeding toward water, so it's going to go out when it hits that water. So here is, this is actually buttoning it up at the end of the fire where we'll finally do a head fire, but everything in the downwind side is all burned away, so the fire has no way to escape. So this is the very end of a burn. And there's not much mop up here with woody plants that are still going because there weren't anything. So it's the same site in July. A lot of prairies respond really positively to a burn. It was exceptionally colorful after the burn this year. This is pale purple coneflower. There's coreopsis there, white wild indigo, compass plant, and wild quinine. I mean, just the list goes on. There's probably about 80 species of plants here. So there's compass plant is that tall sunflower looking one that you see there, the tallest yellow one. So, and this is a buzz with a lot of pollinating insects and birds. This is a place where I've seen eastern meadowlark, which is a relatively rare bird species. And then finally, he did a drone flight at Battister Preserve just a week or two ago when it's in fall color. This is the wetland restoration. This is a scrape pond that was done by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. There was about 6 of them out there where they plugged ditches and they excavated shallow ponds. This area holds a lot more water now and a lot of wildlife. So the oak trees in the oak savanna are white oak, red oak. They're in full color right here. So enjoy. If you haven't gone out and walked it, you can at least look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm just curious, have you noticed more wildlife at Inglewood, or I'm sorry, what is it called?
Battister and Engle, or yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't. There are some communities. Waukesha County is doing this now in Milwaukee County, where they have a lot of citizen science volunteers that are trying to track, what they're observing in a lot of these areas. I'd like to do that, but I'd rather get the land into shape, knowing that it's better habitat for all these things. It'd be nice if someone was kind of measuring what's there and what could be there and what if it's improving. But intuitively, it's improving.
I live east of it. And the other day, the kids came running into the house, and I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, there's a whole family of owls on our back. And I'm like, what we've never had anything like that recently. It was a whole family on our, I took a picture of it because I was just like, this is insane. But I just have noticed more, birds and more deer coming through our backyard. So
where do you live?
I live just 2 houses south of the high school.
Okay, near Engle then, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have that, river, I think it's supposed to be a farm drainage behind our house, between us and the subdivision.
Okay.
But supposedly at some point in time, you could take a canoe from that behind our house and take it all the way into Big Muskego Lake. Supposedly, they used to dredge it out or whatever, so that you could take a canoe from that area all the way to Big Muskego.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of fallen logs here and there that might make that difficult.
But we've just recently been just noticing a lot of more animals coming towards our house. So I'm just curious if you're noticing things.
It's undoubtedly improved, but we really don't know the numbers. Just a note on Engel, the northern half is a wetland restoration that was done some years ago. It's the Wetlands Reserve Program by the Natural Resource Conservation Service. That has too much water in it right now, and they've been wanting to get in there to repair the outlet structure. And because of the weather this year, it's just been too wet for the contractors to get in there. So hopefully this winter they get in and that gets repaired. And in doing so, they're going to repair that embankment around the whole thing. And so it'll make the trail much nicer. Because right now it's pitted and wet, and yeah, it's going to be a lot nicer after they're done.
A lot of people use it because they geocache back there.
I've found some of the geocaches even without, I just happened to see something in a tree and like, yeah.
I don't know, it's back there.
There
It's
are a few, they have to ask permission to allow it to happen. And there are a
Is-
few in town, but none that I know of in Engel.
It's not a big deal unless they're hurting,
Right.
hurting the vegetation or something. So, any other questions? Or?
Is there any idea how many visitors we get regularly into these?
That can vary. I mean, sometimes I'm amazed that, on nice days that there isn't anybody there, and then suddenly the parking lot's full. There's a group of people that'll come to Batishir Preserve that are homeschoolers, and suddenly it's packed with minivans, and they're running kids all over the place. So it's really nice to see. There's a hiking group that comes out there periodically, and then, just individuals you see. Unless we did a counter. Same thing with some of the parks. I'm surprised that at times that on nice days we don't see as many people as you might expect. But then, then they're very busy. And the rec trails, they seem to be on the increase as far as the number of people I just see. But that's just a anecdotal observation. So I don't, I think we're providing a good service to everyone.
I'm more familiar with, on Hillendale, seeing the Batishir parking lot. And there's cars there occasionally, but I don't see cars there constantly.
Right. Now there's a few people that are archery hunting there in the fall, which is allowable. It's the only city-owned site where hunting is allowed. So.
When you did the burn on the area along Kelsey, you didn't put any seeds in there, did you?
No, that's a good question.
That was just a natural comeback, right?
The plants are perennials, so what you're burning is the dead material from the previous year's growth. It blackens the soil and it warms the soil. I think it releases nutrients, and so the plants respond. A lot of them really put on a show after a burn. It's not always the case, but burning can really invigorate a prairie or oak savanna. And those are plant communities that are adapted to fire. If we did without fire, eventually trees would colonize and it would become more forested. And it's interesting to note that, well, how did that happen and how do prairies? It was about 14,000 years at least of Native Americans that were lighting fire to the land on purpose. So they helped that plant community evolve. So to sustain some burning to keep those plant communities going, that's needed. So that's why we do prescribe burning. A lot of these sites are on like a 3 to 5 year cycle. Some of them we're burning for the oak savanna sites because they're in their development stage. We're burning them almost yearly. And that's really helping keep the invasive buckthorn from coming back.
Okay.
Thanks.
Tom. Appreciate it. Okay, any announcements or miscellaneous business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Did you say you have a lot of bugs?
Yeah, in our back.